All right, everyone. Welcome to today's Agent Spotlight interview. As you know, here at Choice, we believe that the best way to learn is from each other to see what people are doing on a day-to-day basis, how they're standing out in the market, what they're doing to evolve. And that conversation has no boundary, right? And so we figured there's nothing better than to take it nationwide. And so today we're going to be speaking with one of my dear friends, Jackie Howell. Jackie is a friend that I quite literally manifested. If I do say so myself, I moved to Austin and thought, I'd like to learn to roller skate. I would also like to make some agent friends here. So I hopped on Instagram, signed up for skating lessons. Jackie was teaching them, only to find out that she's an agent, and we've been fast friends ever since. She sold me this home, and we do co-working days together quite frequently. And anytime we do, I leave with some knowledge of a system or a process or a marketing technique that I've never heard of. And I'm always texting her saying, hey, what was that thing that we talked about? And so, you know how we do it here. Anything I know, I want to share with you. And there's nothing better than hearing it from the source. So today we're going to be sharing that knowledge. Jackie is an agent in the Austin, Texas area. She's a retired professional roller skater, and she is incredibly talented at infusing her passion with connecting with new clients, finding creative ways to market, and also leaning into her authenticity, all while creating a scalable, repeatable, referral-based business. So today we're going to talk about all of that. Jackie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have a platform to share all this good info.
Yeah, well, obviously I did a very quick intro, but I would love for you to tell us who you are.
Oh, I think you nailed it.
Oh,
I'll just keep it short because we're going to cover so much. But yeah, I'm Jackie Howell, the roller skating real estate agent out of Austin, Texas.
true. We'll cover plenty. So you've not been on any of these before, but most of our agents know I always like to start them in the same place. I think we all get into the business at different points for different reasons, and I think context is really important. So I'd love for you to share what got you into real estate, what you were doing at what point, and what was that reason for you?
Sure. So I had a fun career journey. I am not one of those people that knew what I wanted to do and hopped straight into it. I was very much the person who had no idea what I wanted to do and had to do a lot of exploring. So I'll say before, just to fill in the roller skating bit, I was a competitive figure roller skater for my grade school years. Essentially, I did that from like age 5 to age 22. I did get a degree in physics. I worked as an, I was wondering if you knew that. Yeah, I got a degree in physics. I worked as an optical engineer for a while. And I just was not happy and trying to figure out why. And I changed everything in my life, my diet, my friend groups, my apartment, everything, except for my job. And I just still was not happy. And then finally, I ended up with a roommate who was in real estate. And I would, as roommates do, gripe and moan about how I feel. And she was like, you should look into real estate because, you've got the personality, you're not scared of reading things, and you've got an analytical mind, but you're also friendly and all this stuff. And I kind of put it off. And then one day I shadowed her and I was like, oh, yeah, I should do this. And then I went home, took the Myers-Briggs personality test because I was going through this whole career crisis, and found out I was an ENTP. And I clicked the button for worst jobs for this, like things this personality hates. And it was my job description as an engineer. And then clicked jobs for this personality type, and real estate agent was number one. So I literally wrote my 2-week notice that night, submitted it the next day. And obviously I needed to get my license, which took some time. And all this, like I said, I was a competitive athlete. I lived in California near Hollywood. So naturally, in Hollywood, if you needed quality roller skaters, there weren't that many of us. So I was already working as a professional roller skater. I was also teaching roller skating just on the side. And so for a time, that was my main income. After I left my engineering job, I was like a full-fledged professional roller skater, and started building a platform on social media because of that. And then and this is the funny part, once I got my license, I had never done sales before. And I just decided, you know what, time to grow up and stop this roller skating shenanigans. I quit teaching, I quit doing gigs, I quit the whole thing, and I went into an office with awesome training. I showed up at 7 a.m. I stayed there till 7 p.m. I was cold calling, door knocking, I was doing all the things. And that's how I started my real estate career, was very brick and mortar, old school. Then the pandemic happened and everybody picked up roller skating. Like there, I think roller skates were back ordered by like 8 months for a while, and then it went on to be a year and a half. And people who I had taught how to roller skate, like models and influencers and things, were calling me and going, Jackie, everybody wants me to teach them how to skate because I'm on Instagram, but I can barely go backwards. Like, you need to start teaching again. So I did. And just organically, because I was in real estate and I mention it here and there, my roller skating students started becoming my real estate clients. And then the light bulb went off in my head was I need to pull up a headshot, like my first real estate headshot, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. But the light bulb went off on my head, like, why am I segregating? It's this thing that's been a huge part of my life, my whole life. And then now trying to do something from scratch when I can just do the two. So that is how my journey went.
That is so cool. It's so funny because oftentimes when we do these sessions, I'll do like a pre-interview chat, but with all of our schedules, you and I haven't had time to do that. And so I'm loving that I'm learning all of this about you. I had no idea that you were an engineer, but that makes total sense. I also want to give you real big props for like just burning it all down and eliminating all the variables to find your joy, because I think so often we get stuck in that loop of just like complaining about it and taking small action. And sometimes, hate to say it, but like you got to just change the big stuff sometimes. And so props to you for like dedicating yourself to that. And it's so funny. I wrote down in COVID, everyone needs a hobby. It's so, I had never made that connection, but that's so true. What a catalyst for all of that. So, I love this conversation. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on, among many, is I'm a big advocate for talking with agents about bridging the gap between what you love to do, where you find yourself regularly, and finding a way to connect with people because of that. Because obviously, to your point, door knocking, open houses, there's a million ways to lead generate in real estate, some that are quote unquote more traditional, and they still work. But the best way to magnetize your ideal client is by harnessing your joy and your authenticity. And so I just love that you've done all of that. And so that kind of leads me to where my next questions were going to go. And I'd love for you to kind of hone in on that more. My question was going to be, was that an intentional decision that you made when you got into real estate to bring roller skating in? It sounds like it kind of evolved naturally. I'd love to know on a tangible level what that looks like. So now that you've kind of found your magic spot and infusing the two, what does that look like in terms of starting to have real estate conversations with the people in your classes, or as you get to know them? Like, how much of that is intentional and initiated versus you letting them lead and you just kind of find it organically?
Yeah, I think I'm going to knock out kind of multiple questions here. So yes and no to if I did it intentionally. So in California, no, right? That was like an organic discovery of like, oh, what am I doing? And then I did move from California to Austin, Texas, and I literally didn't know a soul in Austin, Texas. My husband knew a few people, but we decided to move here and I had to start from scratch. And I, at that point, was very intentional. I was like, when we're moving to Austin, I am becoming the roller skating realtor. That is my thing. And so I had my roller skating platform. I moved out here. I just dove so deep into the roller skating community, finding out like who are the people who know people, where are the roller skating spots, what is the roller skating culture, because that's my niche. And I guess to dive a little deeper on something that you brought up is that like as a real estate agent, there's so much out there about all the old school and traditional ways of building your business. And I think it's harder to find resources when you're tackling something like a personal niche, because it's so different. Every niche is like, you might be a reader, or you might be a jogger or a biker, or, whatever, it might be kite building or what, like, and it's going to be a little different. So you have to get a little creative. But like my advice on that would be to just like lean into whatever that community calls for, right? So in like roller skating, it's like meeting up and making up dances together, or like just like going to the hangouts. And so that's what I did. I and in meeting people, I have the background as a professional roller skater in Hollywood, and I offered that value to the skaters who were interested in it. And I ended up starting a roller skating school and a roller skating entertainment company. And that also kind of just like built me a bigger footprint in the roller skating community out here. Um, and then, oh boy, I might forget what the original question was and go off on tangents.
Just talking about infusing the two, like having those conversations with people going to classes and things like that, or like
Right.
email marketing about your classes. Are you putting real estate stuff in there?
Okay. Yeah. So I started the school and everything. I built a database. And really, at first, I was getting my license still in Texas. So I was kind of, people were like, hey, so what are you doing tonight? And go, oh, well, I'm going after skating. I'm going to go. I have to work on getting my real estate license because I really want to have it by March, like something as small as that. Just like I'm not necessarily prospecting or anything, but I'm letting people know that I'm doing something in real estate. Or like I did like a few weekends just like with some skaters that I became friends with, be like, hey, like let's go get some coffee. And then we go get coffee and then go, hey, there's like an open house down the road. You want to come with me? Sometimes they have donuts and like just like kind of randomly putting in real estate stuff wherever I could. And then the second I got my license, I did like just blast it out. Like, guys, I got my license. This is what I'm doing. If you need anything. And in my roller skating business, I have people fill out like a questionnaire, a small one, but I was going through and reading what people were writing. And if someone had like one question is, do you have a local business? And I think that's how I found out that you were in real estate was I asked, do you have a local business? We love to support other local companies. And I would call people about their local business and start like chatting to them about what it is or bring it up when I see them next time in class and just really building deep relationships. And something that, because I did the cold calling thing and the door knocking thing and the number, like I was talking to like hundreds of people every week. And I saw what that conversion ratio looked like. And then I experienced what the conversion ratio looks like when, I teach a class of 5, 10 people once a week and then how that converts. And I personally found a lot more success when I was building just deeper connections with a smaller group of people. And so that was just my intention with the roller skating. So within my roller skating community, selecting like the people who I recognize as my cheerleaders, the people who would refer me business, who would like share my posts about real estate or comment and whatnot, and just getting really deeply connected there. Did that answer the question?
It does. And it's so, I love all of that because we talk all the time about making sure that you're just throwing in nuggets, right? You don't, everyone you speak to, you don't need to say, hey, do you need to buy a home? Right. But just letting them know that you're active in the market, even if you're not selling things, the fact that you're like, oh, I just toured a home around the corner, like right before I got here or whatever it may be, just kind of weaving it in to provide just an opening in case they want to talk about that deeper. And, you talking about announcing it or like saying, oh, I'm in the process of getting my license and now I'm licensed. I think so many people are hesitant to post anything or market at all until they've had some victories in their mind closings or something like that. But in reality, people want to go on a journey with you. And so, go on that process. People like storytelling. Your Parker's dad will attest to that. But like, I think people seeing where you are, they want to be your advocates. And so giving them an opportunity to support you is just beautiful. And then I had totally forgotten about your intake quiz, but you're right. I think, or questionnaire, I think the question that you asked is like, how long have you been here or something like that, since Austin is such a transient city. And I said, oh, well, we just moved here. I'm looking to get into this. And you were like, oh, well, I'm in real estate. If you ever have any questions about the area, let me know. I'm more than happy to give you some like brunch recommendations or so. I don't remember exactly, but it was something like that. And to your point, like, oh, yeah, and I remember thinking, she's got it. Like she knows to slide that in there. But then lastly, I made a quick note on like conversion numbers. I think it's really important that we always talk about treating our business like a business. And so often we say that, but I think tracking metrics is really important, from like keeping track of how much you're spending on closing gifts and creating a system for that, or just auditing like where you're spending your time and what the return on investment is. So I love that you were really intentional about that. And of course, that makes sense as an engineer that you'd get into that. I want to talk for a minute about moving markets. So you moved from LA to Austin. We kind of skimmed over that, but I do want to talk about it for a minute because you never know where agents are in their life cycle or in their life of what they're looking to do. I think as agents, it can be so easy for us to feel like our wings are clipped, that we've built this database of people and now we're quote unquote stuck where we are. When in reality, like if life calls you somewhere, you gotta go sometimes. And so I would love for us to kind of switch the narrative on that. And yes, there's something to be said about having repeatable business and a network that supports you. And at the same time, just because you're moving doesn't mean that that's stopped. And so I think, um, if anything, it's the opposite, right? It gives you an opportunity to continue to market to them, because the move from LA to Austin is a pretty common one. And so I think, there's migration patterns, for lack of a better word. And so if you're making a move, there's other people that are likely going to be making that same move, whether they are already in your database or if they're friends of your friends. And so I'd love for you to kind of talk about what that move looked like. Like, were you intimidated to make that move, knowing no one in Austin? And what did you do to use your database in LA to nurture and support your business in Austin outside of roller skating? But like, how did you continue to market to them for referrals? Did you keep your license active and work with sellers, or just will you speak to what that looked like?
Yeah, I definitely kept my license active because I had a pipeline in California. And so I mean, before leaving California, I made sure I had really solid referral partners, or just people. I even like fully handled some transactions that I just like had agents help me with like showing the properties, but I handled like the contract um, for a while. And then I also took some listings while I was in Austin. It was um, both terrifying and exciting moving to a place where I knew nobody. Terrifying because real estate, sometimes it takes a while to get going. And then, but exciting because I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to try this roller skating thing. I am sure it's going to work out for me. And that's just kind of how my personality is like, we're just going to do it. Um, but yeah, I definitely in California made sure I was set up so that I could keep things moving there. And then once I had my business going in Austin, then I went ahead and let my California license pass. But I still make referrals, and I even still call my dad, like my past clients in California. I still call them and ask them how things are going, how's the kid, and then they'll ask me about how I'm doing in Austin. I'm like, I'm doing great. Like, you know, do you know anybody who is moving to the area or like what? And I have had past clients tell me they're considering moving to Austin, or I've had cousins referred to me. And so just keeping those connections alive, because we are in a world where people are switching jobs so quickly, and people aren't scared of traveling as much as before. And so keeping that referral network open is definitely part of the game plan.
Yeah, I will preach it all day, especially as someone who doesn't really sell much, but just don't ever underestimate the power of a referral. I mean, you just do a quick introduction and you're helping support someone else's business, and you're adding additional income. So I love that. And I also wrote down, I'm sure this is going to work out for me. I love that mindset. And I think that's half the battle, right? Is just making a decision and committing to it and making a plan and saying like, this is what I'm going to do. And things are always working out in my favor. And I also trust myself enough to know that if it's not working out, then I'll pivot and I'll know when that time comes. All right. I love talking about tangible things, as you can tell. So anytime we talk about this and talk about business, I like us to leave with some really everyday strategies. And so I wanted to talk a bit about leverage. And I think when we have this conversation, so often people's first thought goes to making a hire of some sort. And so automatically they kind of zone out because they're like, well, that's too big for us to do. Like, I don't have the budget for that. And well, yes, hiring someone is incredible and it really does open up your life and ability to scale. Even the everyday things really matter. And so I'd love for us to talk about some of the smaller things that you've done to save yourself time while also creating repeatable processes that you know people will engage with and continue to lean into your business. And so, one of the things that I wrote down, one of the first times that we met, you mentioned a text-based app that you have where you're able to send like templated text. You're able to save them to your phone and send these templated text for anything that's like real estate related or even everyday life. Will you talk about that? Because I think about it regularly and even small things compound. And so I'd love for us to start
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And I want everybody to pull up your phone right now, go to your app store and look up Lazy Board. Lazy board, Board. That's the app. And basically, you download that. And if you're someone who speaks multiple languages, you might be familiar. But in your text app, you can switch keyboards. So you might have to watch a YouTube video on how to do that. But basically, that's how you access whatever you put into the app. Is you'll switch keyboards to the Lazy Board keyboard, and it'll pull up files, and you can create templates for anything that I say more than twice. I put in that app. So I have, like, I think Kate, you mentioned, like, I have my home Wi-Fi. If someone comes over and they're like, "What's your Wi-Fi?" I just text them from my Lazy Board templates. I have, if I just met a buyer, I have a little, "Hey, I'm so excited for you to start looking for a home. Here's a bunch of resources," and it's just like a little text template. I have a template for home inspection, like pretty much anything that is just a handy template to have on hand. Or I have like another fun one that I just added is like showing etiquette. Like, "Hey, we're about to go to our first showing. Just a reminder, don't, trash talk the home. You never know who's listening, yada, yada, yada." And now that's in there. And you can create folders. So I have like a folder for my buyers. I have a folder for my sellers with all the templates. I have a folder for my roller skating company, folder for my personal stuff. And you could do subfolders as well. And they even have it where when you click a template, it'll like walk you through, like, put in their name, put in the date, put in the, like, fill in the blank type things within a template. So that one was one of the first things that I added to my business to simplify my life, because I got tired of going to the notes app and copying and pasting and things. And I love Lazy Board.
Yeah, when you said that the first time, I was like, this is brilliant. I think we were speaking of it in the context of people asking about lenders, and you were like, oh, this is how I respond to them. And I know you just mentioned it, JC mentioned it in the chat. Like, one thing we'll do is we'll put everything in our notes app and copy and paste it. But even that takes time. You got to scroll through your notes and find it and find the appropriate one. And I didn't even know it had folders. So as you can
Yeah.
see, it's something I remembered, but I still have yet to implement. So I was partially bringing this up as a reminder for myself to do this too.
And I believe you could do photos as well. I know that they had the ability to do photos and then they took it away, and I think they just added it back in. But like, if if your office is in a particular place, or like there's a coffee shop that you like to meet up at, you can like have a little photo of like where the table you always sit at, so that you can just easily pull it up and send it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Feel like
it's
a congratulations text, something for just after that. Like, all right, now it's time to meet up to coordinate checks, like whatever the case may be. But so cool. On the note of templates, I want to switch gears a little bit and go to something a little bit bigger, but also equally as attainable, especially when it comes to scaling. This is something that would only take a day or two to create, and then it's something that'll just be your business. But I want to talk about landing pages. Obviously, all of us are familiar with email templates, and they are great, but people's attention spans are short. So even if they do find it and open it, they will skim half of it, forget what you said, close it. And that's if they see it and it doesn't get lost in their inbox. So I want us to talk about that. Also, because I've been listening to a lot of marketing podcasts and they keep saying that like email templates are dead, landing pages are in. Like, you don't even need to have a full website, but have a landing page for the things that matter. And so I wanted to talk about those. You've used landing pages in your business. And I think you sent me one of them Specifically, I'm thinking with relation to vendors, but I'm just curious if you could talk about how you use landing pages in your business. What are some of them? What's included in them? And yeah, what do you use to design them, or what content do you have?
Yeah, I love my vendor pages, and I actually have them as blogs on my website. So they live there and they help with my SEO. And just the beauty of the having it on a website rather or a landing page rather than an email is that I can text a link pretty easily, right? And then people also go to the, for in my case, the blogs, and they just start poking, like they read their, every blog has a link to another blog. And so then I have had clients that just kind of go down the rabbit hole of like going through all the steps. And I've had cases where like the buyer just self educates based off of what I've sent, the blogs that are on there. And I've had buyers like even find, because I have home ownership blogs as well, right? So my buyers, I'm being sent, I send them a link to my preferred home inspectors, right? They go through, they end up on a blog about home ownership and taxes, and they send that link to their friend, and then I get a random questionnaire submission from a friend who, that it like came through the website, the chain of my website. So yeah, I love my blogs with all my vendors and just random educational things. And then I also have my landing page for buyers and sellers, which takes them to a questionnaire.
Yeah, I love all of that. And I hadn't even thought about the SEO aspect or the fact that they're all linked to other things, but that's so true. I can totally see being like, oh, if you're going to be buying a home in the next 6 months, here are the things you should be doing, or
Mhm.
in including a link to your search that's also on your website, or top 5 tips for sellers to get their home ready, or 10 ways to increase your curb appeal. And these are things that seem so obvious. They're things that people are going to be searching for regardless. Why would you not want to keep them searching on your own website to then hopefully generate a lead, or to your point, share it with a friend? Gosh, even though I
Yeah.
do all this, just hearing you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, of course, of course. I have,
Anyone
oh, go ahead.
if anyone's feeling overwhelmed. So like it for me, I had this huge vision of how things would connect, and it just doesn't happen overnight. So like I would really just start with like the 2 or 3 landing pages that you'll use, and just like because you also have to build the habit of remembering that you have them and implementing them into your system. And so like start small and get consistent and then see how it's working and then build from there. Because I know that was one struggle I had is I felt like in the beginning that I needed to do all these things. I needed everything to link to everything and lead to another thing. But you just got to start with the bite-sized steps and get going.
Yeah.
Also, though, everyone has ChatGPT these days. So what took me like 2 hours to put together 3 blogs, like now you can probably just have ChatGPT help you out, knock out a bunch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to your point, when you were talking about the text, anything that you're doing 2 or 3 times, I would start there, right? Like sending recommendations for home inspectors. That's something that we do all the time, and so instead of you'll probably still send your under contract email, but instead of it being like, here are all of our steps and here are my vendor recommendations, you're like, and go to this link to see what your home inspection options are and get those scheduled. So um
Mm.
Brian had asked a question in the chat, which I think will kind of lead us into another one, but he was asking, does a person have to put in their name and information in order to get the recommendation? They're just
No,
blogs, right? Yeah.
yeah, they're just blogs. Yeah, that was something I was considering. And I actually started working on like a whole portal thing for my clients where they get like additional access. So, like long term, I might have something like that. But as of right now, yeah, it's just an open, anyone can find it, easy to access.
I
Yeah.
had this a little bit further down in our conversation, but I think I want to bring it up ahead of some stuff because you just mentioned it. But the buyer and seller intake forms, this is something that I see a lot of the top agents doing on Instagram. It's a link in their bio. It's also on their website. And, when we're talking about conversion, clicks to conversion matters. And we know that when it comes to buying a product online or seeing something on Instagram and that thing popping up that says like buy now and it's all in your phone, right? Like we know that tangibly even as a consumer, but for some reason when it comes to service-based industries, we think that we're excluded from that. But it takes a lot for someone to be like, hey, I really vibe with this person. Let me slide into their DMs and be like, hey, I'm interested in buying, and I don't even know what else to say, right? So like giving them an opportunity to just tell you everything, aside from just going onto your website and searching for homes and being like, well, I'm assuming based on what they search for, this is their criteria, right? Like, so many of us want to create an opportunity for people to just come to us. And I think what better way to do that than just giving them a form for that? Will you talk about, obviously you've got one for buyers, you've got one for sellers. What are the questions that you have on there aside from like name, email, phone number? Is it criteria based? Is it like you mentioned on your roller skating, like how long have you been here? What's on there? And is any of it like personality or get to know you based?
Totally. I love my questionnaires. They were definitely a big game changer when I started implementing them. So I, of course, ask for name and contact information. And I also ask if anyone else is going to be making this move with you. And then I make this section optional, like putting in their partner's information, but a lot of times I get it. So I might have two people's contacts now. Then I go into like, I have like the top is like, I love to treat my clients like royalty. You're going to get gifts from me, whatever, just something friendly so they don't feel like I'm just being invasive with the personal questions. But then I ask personal questions, like I have little stars and it's like rate from 1 star to 5 stars. Do you like coffee, roller skating, video games, hanging out, and things like that? And so that helps me one, get to know their personality. And I actually explicitly ask, like, which personality type are you? Are you like strict, straight to the point? Are you, friendly and cordial? And, like, what would your friends say? And so I have them fill that out. So now I know who I'm working with. I know if they like, I'm not going to ask them to a coffee shop if they rate coffee as a 1, but if it's a 5, then we're getting coffee. And then I also have some heads up on what I might get them for a closing gift. So that page is fun. And then I do go into assessing, like, have you talked to a lender yet? What does that look like? And then I go into what kind of houses they're looking for and what their timeline is. Basically, a lot of the information you would go over in a buyer consultation, I just get it in that questionnaire. So then when we go to the consultation step, I'm presenting like a put together game plan for a tailored game plan for them. I'm and I would say if I have two, and I always recommend if I'm helping a couple that both of them fill out the form, So if someone submits a questionnaire and then I see that they're going to be moving forward with someone else, but I haven't received a questionnaire from that other person, I'll like just shoot them a text like, oh my gosh, thanks for filling out my questionnaire. I'm so excited to help you. I see that you're going to be buying this with your husband. Would you mind sending your husband a link to the questionnaire too? I just want to make sure that, I have his information. And so then I'll get that. And so often they want 2 different houses, And so then when we come to and a lot of times they fill out the questionnaires and then they compare notes with each other. And then they get to the buyer consultation and they're like, we had some really funny conversations about condos on the way over here. And so it just helps them get through things. I also ask questions like, do you plan to have kids in the next 5 years? Like, because a lot of first time home buyers are like, oh, we're in a 1 bedroom apartment. That's fine. We just need a small little condo. But then I find out that they like want a dog, they plan on having kids in the next couple years, or I ask them if they're going to be turning the property into an investment property. Things that buyers might not ask themselves or know how to strategize around, those questions are in my questionnaire so that when I meet with them, I can give them advice.
I hadn't thought about having both of them do it and cross compare notes because you're so true. Like one of my friends, for example, they would love to buy a house right around the corner for us that's new construction and, has point 0.2 lot max. And he's like, absolutely no HOA. I need a bigger yard. And I mean, thankfully, they've obviously had that conversation, but I can just see things like that. I also like that you asked about communication style because that's so true. And it's one of the fastest ways to lose someone if you're like going into all the details and they're just a direct high level person. They're like, man, you can see it on their face, So knowing up front how to talk to them or if they like coffee, going to a coffee shop. So I love all of that.
The other thing is the finances. Like I make it optional so that you don't have to disclose a bunch, but like how many times I've had the one partner is like, okay, we can afford a monthly payment of 3,500, and then the other partner is like, no, we want to stay at 2,000. So then when I meet, I'm like, okay, where are these numbers coming from? And like, because not all couples talk about their finances. And so it's like sometimes that's the first step, is like, you guys need to get on the same page, and then we can keep moving forward. But
You're like, first things first, you guys figure that out and then talk to me. Yeah,
yeah,
it's so true. And much better to do that now than as we're in the middle of house shopping and I've already spent a few Saturdays with you and now I'm frustrated because we didn't even kind of figure out the lay of the land in the first place. Kelly
mhm.
asked, what's a landing page newbie here? What exactly is it? Is it a website? So Kelly, they're just pages within your website. If we're talking about Bold Trail, then that's what they call a squeeze page, where you can go in and draft the information and it will live kind of on one of the drop downs on your website. To Jackie's point, it could also be a blog post, which means that it's linked to your website, but same type of thing. It just is structured a little bit differently. So one thing I want to say though is, Jackie, you have a regular website and you do these pages through yours, and same thing with your forms, they funnel through your website. But I want to just emphasize here that this is something that's so attainable for anyone. Like, we all have access to Google Forms. And so if doing some website work is just way too intimidating, just start with a Google form and put that in your Instagram bio. Like, let's just start with the habit, to Jackie's point. So I love all of that. Okay.
And mine started as a Google form. That was what it was originally. And originally it wasn't even buyers and sellers. It was just kind of a generic, like one of the questions was, are you planning on buying or selling? And then just like a shorter form.
Yeah. The other thing that I would love to point out about these forms is, like we mentioned on the front end, you're treating your business like a business. I think it also sets the expectation that as a professional, we have working hours. I think that's one of the things that we as agents struggle with so much, is the feeling that we're constantly needing to be urgently available to people, needing to be responding very quickly. And so if we don't have something like this, if people are just sending us a text or sending us an email, there can be an expectation, whether it's matched on the client's end or not, but at least internally, of like, oh man, I need to respond to them right now, or I might lose them. Where if you've got a form like this, anyone that submits something online through a form, even if it's a help portal of a product you've purchased, like, it's going to take a minute for them to get back to you. And so I think it kind of sets that expectation of like, they've checked that box. They know it'll be a minute. It takes that urgency away from you. Yeah, you still want to get back to them quickly, but it sets that expectation so that when you do start working together, they start to understand your operating hours. And it's a lot easier for you to have that conversation to say, hey, by the way, like, this is when I respond to texts and this is when I check emails. I think it kind of lessens that threshold. So you guys know I'm all about boundaries. I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. And you can also, I don't know if Google Forms you can do it, but you could do it if you use Zapier or Zapier, whatever you want to call it. But after someone fills out my questionnaire, then they receive my buyer or seller package, which is like on like my guide, my seller guide or my buyer guide, which I have in Canva. So they fill out the questionnaire, they get the Canva guide that they can thumb through in the meantime. And then I do have an email template that talks about, like, I try to take Sundays off unless we're like urgently trying to find you a house. Obviously we'll look at as many houses as we need to when we need to. And it does like explain what days I'm available and what my hours are.
Yes,
And
say
so
that
then
up front. And then
send
it's not personal. They don't feel like it's like directed at them after they've already made an ask. You're just, and they know
that.
that was automated. Yeah, I love
I'll
it.
also say with the questionnaires, the beautiful thing is if someone fills out that questionnaire, the odds of them actually becoming a client are so high. Um, I want to say 9 out of 10 questionnaires on my end. And the ones that don't go through aren't because they don't want to, it's because there was something in their file that made it hard for them to move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. It's a lot bigger of a commitment energetically in a time way, even if it's just the difference between like 2 minutes to 10 minutes, right? Like between someone sliding into your DMs versus filling out a questionnaire. And we talk about it all the time, but like, social media isn't lead generation until people are coming to you. And so we need to be providing opportunities for them to actually come to us because someone liking your post or commenting, unfortunately, that's not a lead, right? So let's give them an opportunity to become a lead. I want to switch gears a little bit, talking about leverage, going up a step, talking about working with a virtual assistant. If you are at a point where you're ready to work with someone, that's such an attainable way to kind of make that hire and make that happen. You work with a virtual assistant. I would love for you to talk about what that's looked like. You found her through one of the kind of standard companies. But I would love for you to talk about what tasks you gave her originally, how you trained her, and then how that's evolved over time.
hmm Yeah, so I jumped into the whole get a VA thing uh, and learned a lot as I went. I started her off in my roller skating company because that company I had my systems were more clear cut and dialed and a lot more repetitive. And so just to test out what it would be like to have a virtual assistant working for me, that's where I had her starting off. So she was working on like updating the website, making sure that the class schedules were correct, replying to emails, and then I taught her how to like send refunds, and then we came up with templates for replying to text messages and emails. And that was pretty much her main gig for a while. Um, and I learned that when you're hiring a VA who's from, in my case, from the Philippines for a very affordable rate, she's amazing, but you have to train her and you have to have clean, clear instructions. And that was the big thing that I learned. And so as I was working with her in my roller skating company and finding out like how her ability to make decisions on her own, what that looks like, and how clear of instructions I need to have with her, I was working on putting my like SOPs together for my real estate company and making sure that my templates, like I know where all my templates are and what they're called, but making sure that she would be able to find them when she was going to start helping me with real estate. And so over the last year now I've transitioned and started working with her more on my real estate company. And she now, and this has been amazing, she does all my like scheduling showings. You know, she has a template for asking what the buyer's agent commission is to the listing agents. And so now when I have a questionnaire come in, she files the questionnaire, she sets up that client folder, she's able to draft a MLS search for me to approve and send out. And then once we have properties picked out for a showing, I just text her what time we're doing the showing, or she has access to my office line. She can see when we're going to start, and she'll put together a spreadsheet, make sure that the MLS docs are put into a PDF. She emails me the PDF. I print it out. I look at the spreadsheet. She's already got the buyer's agent commission. It's scheduled and timed out appropriately. So that has been like a big thing she's helped me with, a huge time saver. And just setting up like a lot of the admin stuff, setting up folders, making things are named correctly for my listings, renaming all the files that I'm uploading so it's not just like ABC Home Inspectors or Survey 2019. Now she like formats it 1_ home inspection, 2_ survey, so that it shows up the way I want it to. And so just all those little smaller tasks that take time, especially as your business grows, I've been able to hand off to her.
How did you try to train her? Were you someone that did like Loom videos or use something like Scribe, or what was?
Girl, I wish I discovered Loom so long ago. The training was a bit of a struggle. So originally I would just do Zoom calls and we would film the Zoom call, record the Zoom call, and I'd walk her through it and we'd answer questions. I love, yes, Nichelle, is that your name? Get Loom, look into it. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, originally it was Zoom calls and I'm just really walking her through things, and it was very time consuming. It was like almost a whole second job getting her up to speed. Since discovering Loom, it's been a game changer. So we have now I use Monday as my task management system. And so we have an SOP document in Monday where, I write out a lot of steps and provide links to templates. But I also now do Loom videos, which is when I'm doing a task, I can like basically hit record, records my screen, has like a little bubble with my face and records my audio, so then I can talk her through the task as I'm doing it. And then I send her the Loom link and she's able to follow the videos like it's like a tutorial. And then actually, I don't even put it in the SOP. I send her the link and then she puts it in the SOP and then I have her write out like notes and stuff.
That's cool because then she's
Yeah,
kind of like it's training another way to kind of remember what you learned, and she's taking her own notes, but also creating your system for you.
exactly. And so we just have this living document full of the SOPs with links and things, and I have her regularly update it. And then sometimes we'll have a change, and part of her job is to recognize when we need to update the SOP. She'll be like, "You need Jackie, can you make a new Loom video for this? Because the MLS updated and now it's a new format. Can you just you need to update it?" And so then I get on doing that. So
So
yeah.
cool. I
And
love it.
when I work with her, we have Monday, which is where we do keep track of our projects and tasks and then have like our SOPs and things. And then we use Slack as kind of our messaging system to go back and forth for quicker things.
Totally. And if you didn't have Slack, you could easily just use like Google Chat or something like that in your
Mhm.
Gmail.
Yeah.
I want to change gears slightly, just bouncing off of random ideas that you've had that I've taken notes on. This was one of the most recent ones when we got coffee last that I was like, oh, brilliant. Of course, you found something like this. Which talking about using moving boxes as a marketing strategy. Will you talk about the product that you found and how it works and kind of what your process is from start to finish in terms of using that?
Yeah, so I found a company called BizBox, B-I-Z box, and basically you can design like a branded box. So I have it's got my face, my contact information, and it says something like Jackie helped me move, and it's just a fun little branded box. And when you log into your BizBox account, you can just very easily select a package. They have I think their smallest package is sending someone 5 boxes, some tape, and packing material. And then, they have larger boxes, and I think they cost between $40 to, I think the biggest one's like $250, depending on how many boxes you want delivered. And just type in an address, pay for the boxes, and they handle shipping it over to your clients. And my clients have been loving it. They I don't tell them that I'm doing this. I just send them boxes. And then the day that it arrives, I'm like, you have a surprise on your doorstep. And then I have an email template that I send them like, hey, when you get the boxes, take a picture, ideally with yourself in it, and send it to me or post it to social media. And then, so now they have these boxes. And then after they make the move, I go, hey, I know that my face is laying around in your living room in these empty boxes. If you have a friend that's moving, feel free to, share, give the boxes away, you know? Um, and so it's just been kind of a fun thing to implement. My clients love it. I love it. It's free marketing and it's something that's really useful to everyone.
Yeah, and to your point, if they're done with them, they can pass them off, which might not happen, but in the off chance they know someone moving, like what an easy, fun little legion method or like a little marketing nugget.
I'm waiting for the day that I just see one of my boxes, I don't know, sitting in someone's garage or at a random house, like, oh my God, where'd you get my box?
So cute.
Yeah.
But on the note of slightly changing topics, but on the note of this, one thing that you are amazing at is making sure that almost any product you use has an affiliate link, or if they do, making sure that you have that link. And I think that's something that us agents could absolutely tap into more. Obviously, I feel like a lot of agents are really good about being like, well, here's my packet for like top used home tools or something, like doing Amazon links, right? But we forget about all of the systems that we use regularly. I know Flowdesk has affiliate links. Monday might, I don't remember for sure, but the Moving Boxes one has one. So I wanted to point that out because obviously we're having conversations like this, right? And so when we send the recording email out, I could very easily send your affiliate link for the boxes too. And so we as agents love to collaborate. Don't forget about the things that you use every day. And even if it's just $5 off your next month on whatever that subscription is, that's something that you don't have to pay for. And so I just think that that's a good reminder in that moment. Okay, so we're almost at time. I wanted to spend a quick moment talking about something that you did when the NAR settlement was finishing, which was taking that as an opportunity to see the pain points of sellers, especially. We're having to have a lot more of a transparent conversation about what it is that we provide and what that means. And while a lot of agents felt like that was an opportunity or an unfortunate situation where they might be making less, you created a strategy that actually allowed you to get more commission than you likely had been in the past. And so I'd love for you to talk about that. You, in essence, created a one-page flyer where you broke out different packages for sellers and what it would include versus like the commission they were going to be paying. Will you speak to that for a minute? And what were some of the things on that? Obviously, don't talk about like your commission amount, but if you'll just kind of break down what the differences were in included packages.
Yeah, so it's like three different packages that my sellers can choose from. There's like the bare minimum one, which is like when I'm presenting it, I go, I honestly don't really recommend this one, but if we're like for a very particular situation, we would go with this one. And it's like I basically list it on the MLS and I take photos and make flyers and like that's what you get, plus all the contract negotiation and the standard being a real estate professional stuff. But that's that. And then there's the standard, which so I have like the bare minimum on one side, and then I have like the standard on the other side. And it's what you're going to get with most agents. And if you're not getting all this with an agent, then really don't go with that agent, right? And it's going to be listing on the MLS, some basic like social media advertising, photos. I think I provide one house cleaning for that one, and then like very light staging. I'm like trying to remember. I just reformatted those. So that one's like going to be like basic. And then there's the baller one, right? Which is going to be paying me more than a normal commission. And I just like rock star out. And I like your marketing is all the cool things you could do with marketing. We're doing it. I like go the extra mile. If you like need help with coordinating vendors or contractors, I can help like you with that, which is really great for my clients who are moving out of state and they're like worried about, what if we need to have the lawn mowed? I'm like, that's not getting forgotten on this one. And so just the baller package. And when I did this, I mainly made it as a way to just talk about the NAR settlement and like why that was a thing. I've been getting the baller package booked out. So, because people see it and they're just like, they see the value in it and they do the math. Like, I don't have to do anything. Jackie's just going to take care of all of that. It's all going to that sounds great. Like, why wouldn't we? We're selling our biggest asset. Like,
And so just to clarify, when you're talking about coordinating vendors, for example, you're still just coordinating. You're not saying like, I will front the cost of this, correct? Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So I'm just coordinating.
So
I do,
cool.
I think I will pay for a cleaning service. And then I have a partnership with a stager where if you do the baller one, she gets paid at closing. So me and her have a separate agreement where that's the case. And then let's see and then there's like an ozone treatment as well. So if you had pets or something, then it'll clear out the smell of animals. Which is also, if you don't know about it, guys, you can get an ozone machine off of Amazon for like $60 if you do have a listing and it smells like cat fur or dog fur. Like doing an ozone treatment is the way to go.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, gosh, what does that cost? And you're like, no, girl, I bought that on Amazon once and I just use it. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. I'm gonna ask one more question, but before I do that, I think we've got a few minutes. And so if there's anything that's been on your mind as we've had this conversation, anything that's pressing, either that we've discussed that you want more info on, or something that came to mind that we haven't hit on, feel free to pop it in the chat. I think we've got time for a question or two. While you guys do that though, Jackie, I always love to talk about mindset, especially in this business. I would love to know if there's any advice you'd like to give agents for having the right mindset in this business, or how to prevent burnout, or how to stay positive and how to stay in your element and excited about what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I think in real estate, you just have to there's always something, like the NAR settlement, that's like the end of the world. And you just need to put on your earmuffs and just keep doing what you need to do in your business and focus on yourself, because so many agents get um, let it affect them. And the reality is we're in a business that's constantly changing. It's a cyclical business. If it's not a buyer's market, then it's a seller's market, or it's a shift in between. And there's always going to be those crazy headlines. And so you just need to stay focused on what you do, clean up your systems, make your calls or your contacts, whatever your posts, whatever your business calls for, and just stay focused on doing that. That would be my number one thing, because I feel like I do a very good job of like not letting any of that affect me, and it has paid off. And stay positive and just know that things don't happen overnight, especially if you're a newer agent. Like, you just need to keep doing the work, and it will. That's another beautiful thing about real estate. If you're doing the work and you are just like analyzing yourself every now and then, dropping in, seeing what's working and what's not working, it'll pay off.
And just like you said when you were talking about the virtual assistant, like sometimes you just got to do the thing, and like you'll learn as you do it. Like you learned a lot in how to train a VA, but you didn't spend too much time like figuring that out. You just said, well, this is what I need, and I know we'll both figure it out together. So, well, thank you so much for your time. Does anyone have any questions that they want to chime in and ask Jackie while we've got a few remaining moments?
Michelle had asked about any other vendors that for closing gifts that Jackie might use or has used.
For closing gifts, I used Etsy a lot, and I would do like custom cutting boards, and I love doing a custom gift that like I know my clients are going to keep. And then ChatGPT can generate. I paid for the like first tier ChatGPT, but it'll generate like pretty cool logos. So I also got a local vendor who does etching like into glasses. And so I like have ChatGPT make a cool little logo. Like, I have one that's like Kirsty and Brad, Minnesota chapter, because they just moved to Minnesota, and it's like a little image of their dog and them, and had that etched on. It was like $40, sent it to them, and they 2 months after the thing, they sent me a photo of them using the glasses, and like, they post about it. So those are fun. And I have actually, like last month, one of my clients that I sold a house to 5 years ago just posted on social media a picture of their cutting board. They're like, I still smile every time I use this. And I got a lead off of that post. So that's kind of my favorite thing, is if you could find someone who does like custom etching into cutting boards or glasses, and then use ChatGPT or Canva to generate little cute logos.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, oh, well, I was going to ask, just for the boxes that you talked about, did you say you send those like after you get the listing agreement, after they go under contract? Like, when do you send those boxes?
I send them once I feel pretty confident we're going to be doing something, so like I've even sent them to people who I helped find like a lease that they are going to be leasing for a year. And like, I'm not getting paid a ton off of that, but they're going to have 5 boxes with my face on it. And they're probably going to remember that. And I know that they want to buy next year. So I'll just go ahead and front the money on that one. Yeah. But
That's
I
really
think,
smart. In our area, like if you show a rental, like you might make $150 on it. And so like you could just take that money and say, well, I'm just gonna put that into like this box idea because yeah, they're gonna be buying in a year. Like that's awesome.
mhm.
One thing I've started doing, I obviously don't really sell much these days, but I send out a lot of referrals. And so what I've started doing is once I have a referral that closes, I give it like a week or two. And then through Chewy, like the pet company, I will order little dog or cat tags with the pet's name. I make sure that whoever I'm referring the business to, make sure they get their pet's name. And if the pet wears a tag, like I know some people's cats don't really wear one, but if they've got like a dog and a cat, I'll get one for the dog or whatever. And I'll have their pet's name and their new address on the back of it. And so they've already gotten a closing gift from their agent, and it's like a nice little secondary closing gift. So I like that one too, because it's nice and personalized. Judy, it is bizbox.com is the website. Yeah, cool. And
Yeah.
I'll send that in the email. But all right,
And the
y'all.
other thing with the boxes too is I have like, after I send them the boxes, I send them a message about like, hey, take a photo of it, when they arrive so that I can share or whatever. And then I'm going to reach out in like 2 months after they move and ask, hey, so I'm so curious because I just started using this box company. Like, what do you think about the quality of the boxes? Just kind of like another tap in, like, were they useful? And then check in with them. So it just gives me another thing to call people about.
Totally. Jackie, thank you so much for doing this. I so appreciate it. I obviously love spending time with you. And a lot of this was stuff that you and I had talked about before, but there were still so much little details that I had yet to learn. So I always appreciate time with you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and spending your morning with us. If anyone has any friends or family or people in their database that's moving to Austin, let us know. I'll be sure to include Jackie's contact information when the recording goes out. Thank you guys for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Have a good one.